Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Jillian. She is a newly certified personal trainer. So, congratulations to her. That's such an amazing accomplishment, and a health coach. Welcome, Jillian. We are so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here today. I appreciate the congratulations. It's been on my heart for a while. I've been passionate about health and fitness for probably a year or two, but it was put on my heart to just go out, get the certification. And so I'm really, really excited to have that to just better help my clients. So thank you. And
Yes,
thank you
I
for
know.
having
That's
me.
such an amazing accomplishment. Not many, people can say they've done it. I've heard stories, and you can tell us yours, but I've heard that it's not an easy certification.
Mhm.
A lot of
No.
hard work and studying, so
Yes.
is that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
So tell the audience a little bit about, or the listeners, I should say, a little bit about who you are, like Cliff Notes version of, how you kind of got to this place, like where you started to, and I know it's probably a long journey like most of us, but
Mhm.
just like the Cliff Notes version of, like what inspired you to kind of go down, the health transformation coach path,
Mhm.
to mix it with, I know that you are into spirituality as well.
Yep. So some super quick background. During COVID, as a lot of us remember that fun time, during COVID, I really focused on my health. I had all the time in the world. So I really honed in. I got super healthy. I did like a Whole30. I was working out at home. I was getting toned, achieving all the goals, doing all the things. And then holiday time, like that same year, holiday time rolled around, and just like a lot of people do, especially like it's holiday time. Well, it's holiday time right now in the recording, but um, I kind of let myself go and I started eating all the things and I stopped working out because, like, what's one day? That doesn't matter. And then one day turned into two, turned into three, and I got off track. And then in the new year, as a lot of people do, I tried to get back into it, doing the same things I had done, but I had regressed so much that it was really hard. Like I was trying to do the same things, but I was like, I was up here. I could do all these things, and now I'm way back down here. I like lost all my progress, and it was demoralizing. So I was like, I need something else to motivate me. So I put out to the universe, like I want something to get me in shape that's going to be fun, give me accountability. And I saw an ad for kickboxing at a local gym. So I took a leap and I went to the kickboxing gym, even though the timing was awful. It was right before I was going back to work. Um, just, something new, like it was going to be a lot more money. It was going to take a lot more time, but I did it anyway. So that's really when this all started. Like my love for health and fitness started by finding kickboxing. So I've been kickboxing at this point for 2.5 years, and I actually started coaching kickboxing recently. And I've worked with different trainers, and it kind of like it reignited my love for health and fitness in a different way. I think because I found something I enjoyed. I also reconnected kind of simultaneously with a life coach that I had worked with, a spiritual life coach and mentor that I had worked with back, I want to say before COVID. I think it was years ago. I had reconnected with her. So it was kind of like all at the same time. I found my love for health and fitness. I reconnected with her and my spirituality and kind of, like had a second awakening more or less.
Yeah.
And the more the more I worked on myself, the more I worked on my health and fitness, my goals changed. I saw what was possible. And by fusing the two, it was like mind blowing how much transformation I've been able to make in myself. And it just kind of clicked for me, like, this is the missing piece. And having worked with a lot of trainers over the past like 2 years, I've probably had 4 or 5 different trainers myself, and they all do the same thing. They all focus on the habits. You jump right in. It's like you got to change everything instantaneously, and it just never works. So when I started doing the work on myself internally, the spiritual work, and I've learned about habits, I've done a lot of studying on habits, and it all clicked for me. It's like, this is the process. This is what's missing for so many people in the health space. So you don't really
Yeah.
people don't really, they don't really put it together. Like a lot of people will use like spirituality, like to help with abundance or to get more wealth or relationships, but I don't see it in the health space a lot. So I know this is probably a lot more than you asked for, but it just kind of all clicked for me. And I was like, okay, I have to bring this to the health and fitness space.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're actually speaking on that. And I was going to say, the universe, I usually tell the universe what before I literally jump on podcasts, like whatever they need to say, let them say it, let them, because I know to me, for me, like it can be like, you could be like nervous getting, I know I am. I have a podcast and I get so nervous. Like, why am I sitting here nervous that I'm going to be interviewed and I'm talking about myself? But I'm like, let me just let anything flow, anything that I need to say flow. So I'm so happy that you talked about that because I feel like in general, like if you're working with a spiritual life coach, right? They work on goals, habits, patterns, like all that stuff. And it's like, I personally, like I told you before we started recording, in 2025, I want to work more on my health because I feel like I'm always working on my inner and outer or whatever. Not outer, obviously, but I need to start working on both at the same time because I feel like I'm still hitting that body shame. I'm still, my habits are not good, like my eating habits. It's like I won't eat all day and it's like the one meal I do eat, it's probably not the best. So like I tell myself, why can't I just snack all day and eat healthier foods but not diet like not put myself on a diet, and maybe that's not how I should do it, but I just feel like that's what I want to do. And I feel like that is actually whatever I want to do, but if it's not eating sugar, I said this to Joey the other day. I think all of us humans are allergic to sugar. It's so addicting. Like it's literally addicting. I don't know. That's just my my belief about it because it's like you eat candy or eat bad, and it's like literally the next day you do the same thing, and the next day, and then you like look back and you're like, why am I 50 pounds heavier? And it's like because you've been eating sugar. I mean, it's really hard to not eat sugar, and I'm not going to limit myself to not eat sugar. But I did this whole, I did no gluten, and gluten to me hurts my belly. Now I'm not. It's not. I don't have a gluten intolerance, but I don't feel good when I eat gluten. So I just don't eat as much. But there's some times when I emotionally eat, and that's what happens. And then I'm like mad at myself. So tell us a little bit about um, what I just described. How do you see that in some of your clients, like emotionally eating or body shaming? Obviously, I'm sure you do, but tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about how, like, what is the root cause and the symptoms of, like, maybe let's just use me as an example, like my weight gain or maybe my pain or fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so two different things there because there's the one with the eating sugar and then the other one with body shaming. So when it comes to food and habit, so one of the first things that I do with my clients is we we do a little bit of digging into their nutrition habits, like where do they come from. We do a lot about how did you feel in your childhood, what was like what was expected like around meal times, how did your family eat, what were you exposed to, how do you feel around meal times, and how, and we do go into body as well, but just focusing right now on the nutrition part. We do a lot of digging, a lot of journaling, a lot of pulling up what is down there because it's going to be different for everybody. Generally speaking, of course, everyone is different. So the journey, the patterns, the energy is going to be different per person. Typically, though, like weight gain comes down to like having some kind of insecurity or some kind of lack of love for ourselves in one way or another. It's like a security blanket. But a lot of our eating habits come from, I mean, our childhood, like what we were exposed to. So first, like kind of just digging deep into all of that and seeing what's there so that we can, because that's the resistance. That's the resistance that's there. So once we are aware of it, then we can work toward dissolving it. And it doesn't even have to take that much time. Like a lot of people, and I was this way too, felt like, oh, I've had this for years. It's going to take me years to get, to energetically work through it. And it doesn't have to. That's a limiting belief. It can be a quicker process if you're aware of it and if you're working through it. There is also, the science behind it. Like sugar is addictive to the body, to the brain. You crave it more, and the way habits work, like when we do something that gives us some kind of pleasure, we want to keep doing it. So when we eat unhealthy, not even just unhealthy foods, there are plenty of healthy foods that have the same response, but it's harder to find them.
Right.
But like you eat sugar, then it gives you pleasure. Like you enjoy eating it. It tastes good. It makes you happy. Like it gives you a burst of energy. So then you want to do it again, because even looking at the habit loop, like you want that reward. That is the reward in essence, like not the way that we would think about it, but in the habit loop, like the last part of a habit loop is getting a reward out of it. So what you get, how you feel, is your reward. So then the body continues to crave it. So even though we know, like, we know it's not good for us, we know that we don't like ultimately how it makes us feel, but in the moment, directly after having the sugar or whatever snack it is, then you crave it because you like how it feels right after. So that's a big piece of that. Looking at the body shaming, body lack of love thing, that is huge. And that's something that I've been working through on myself, because that is a pivotal piece. If you don't love yourself, if you don't treat yourself well, if you don't talk well to yourself, you're not going to see the results that you want. Because why would your body respond lovingly if you're not treating it well? And if you don't love it, why would you put healthy foods into it regularly? Like, not to say that you can't or people don't, but if we don't love ourselves, we're not treating ourselves the way we would treat someone that we love. Like, I equate this to like your kids, right? Love your kids. You would never intentionally talk bad to your kids and tell your kids, oh, you're ugly, oh, you're fat, oh, you can't do that, oh, you're never going to achieve X, Y, and Z. You would never intentionally give them a bunch of crap all day, right?
Right.
Granted, it happens sometimes if that's like our habit and that's what we go to, it could transfer down to our kids, but we don't go into it intentionally saying, okay, I'm going to go out and find all the shittiest food I can today and give it to my kid. Right?
Right.
We always have we have good intentions. So my point is, you wouldn't treat someone you love the way we oftentimes treat ourselves. And it comes down to, if we don't love ourselves, like truly love ourselves, then you're not going to get the results long term. And I actually just had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday, and she was like, I visualize the body I want to have, but then I look in the mirror and I think, oh, that's not her. And I
Right.
was telling her, when we can get to the point that we visualize it and then we look in the mirror and say, damn, look at that sexy girl. Like, look at her. She is
Yeah.
beautiful. She is
Yeah.
amazing. She is special. She is amazing. Like, it doesn't matter what we look like on the outside, right? But
Right.
when you love yourself, the results will come. I hope that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. And I thank you for explaining that, because I feel like the majority of the people that listen to the podcast are women. And I'm telling you, if you're like, even if I'm sure at any point somebody can relate to this, if they've dealt with weight problems, if it's weight gain or weight loss, whatever it is, because I've learned early on when I started doing mirror work, is that's actually the key piece that I stopped doing when I started to gain weight. When I was doing a lot of self, like, and a lot of people now, like when we're recording, it's January 2nd. So a lot of people do the, goals and, what am I going to do for 2025 or whatever. But me, I was like, I feel like I need to do a lot of self-reflection. What worked this year? What didn't? What am I going to do? And I usually go by like the witchy new year. So mine is more of like April, like when I kind of switch stuff. So I gave myself a goal that from now until like March, April, I need to start focusing more on like what I'm going to change for the rest of 2025. Because I feel like giving yourself, for me anyway, giving
Mhm.
yourself like 3 months is, and one thing was like, what do I do not what do have I done in the last couple years that have, that I loved my body. Now, maybe my mental health was like trash. I think it was a couple years ago. It was, I had like the best looking body, but my mental health was trash. And I think I did a post about this maybe like this earlier this year, because I feel like I've always dealt with body shaming because I've always fluctuated up and down. It's like as soon as cortisol, and that's anybody, any human, gets in my body, or I get stressed out or whatever, I'll either stop eating or I'll emotionally eat. And I feel like a lot of women can also relate to that. So like you said, will look in the mirror, and even though I'm not the way, like I have a picture of myself, like what I'm not talking abs, I'm not talking like muscular legs, I'm talking that I feel good in my body, which was probably 2 years ago to last year, and then it kind of shifted like maybe within last year to this year kind of thing. But
Mhm.
I have to say, when I look at myself and I try to body shame, which this is a process, and hopefully this gives, I'm sharing this because I'm hoping this gives a listener or somebody hope that it can change, but it just takes time. And I won't look at my stomach. I usually carry a lot of my extra weight around my stomach, which I know it's protection for my sacral. I get it. I know for my emotions, it's all connected. That I still can grab my fat and say, I love this, because I feel like when I grab that extra fat, that protected me through the hardest years of my life, or that protected me through getting me through. And you wouldn't look at something like that and be like, oh, that protected you. Well, if you look at it from the other perspective, it could not protect you. I feel like your body's always protecting you. It's like you have to just love it. So it's interesting that I feel like I'm shedding a lot of weight, extra like weight or fluid or whatever, just from implementing my shadow work, or implementing my, well, it's shadow work, but implementing my mirror work, because I'm not telling myself, when I look good, I'll love you, or when I lose this weight, I will love you. And I literally just talked to a friend that we went through the shamanic journey about this, because um she has a lot of body shame. She's like, I eat right, I take out, she's like really like, she doesn't eat, she pretty much probably makes all her food. And I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, it does not matter. You are looking at yourself and you are hating your body. So why is your body going to do anything different? Now
Mhm.
you eat right, you work out, you literally do everything possible, but you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself you hate your body. You're literally telling yourself you hate yourself. Stop doing that. So I think, now she's in this process of, oh shit, like that is literally why, you know, I said, you could be skinny mini right now. You could have your ideal body. You do everything else right. But the one thing that's hard is you're telling yourself you hate your body. Like, so you're basically saying you hate yourself. And that's what it's hurtful, because I used to do that too, and it was like, obviously I wasn't eating right as well. So that is true. Like I'm literally a live living example of that, because, even though I'm not at my goal weight, or I don't even know if I believe in a goal weight, but like the weight that I feel good in my body, I still don't tell myself I hate myself. I used to, but
Mhm.
it's I was going to say, for anybody listening, of why I needed to explain that, or felt like I needed to explain that, is because it's a process, and it's not going to happen overnight. You did not gain if you're somebody that gained 100 pounds or 50 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever. I'm somebody that was 100, lost 100 and something pounds, gained 50 pounds. Like I know every 5 pounds, even a pound, is a lot of work,
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have clients like that too, that feel the same way. Like
Mhm.
everything internally is in order, but then externally, what are they doing? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it depends on like your journey. There are a lot of people that are one way or the other. They got the internal on lock, but they don't have the habits, or they have the habits on lock, but not the internal. Or they're kind of hit or miss, or there's a lot of inconsistency, because that's the thing too. You have to be consistent in order for the results to come. But there were a couple things that you touched on that I thought were really powerful. One thing you said about like your friend, if you don't love yourself now, you're not going to love yourself when you achieve your goals. So it's like you could be doing all the things right like she is, and you could have a dream body. I mean, I know I went, I mean, even now, I mean, I've come a long way in my own self-love journey, but thinking about like a year ago, I mean, I've never been overweight myself personally, but I never loved my body until I started really honing in. But people would look at me and be like, why? Like, why don't you love your body? Like, if I looked like you, I'd be happy. But that's the thing. If you don't love yourself how you are now, you're never going to love yourself when you achieve your goal. You're just going to see the next problem, or you're going to look to the next goal, or you're going to see whatever imperfection, because we all have them. You know,
Right.
no one's ever going to be 100% perfect. So that's one thing, like definitely self-love comes full circle. Also, something I've learned about habits, because I've done a lot of studying on habits, to fuse with a belief, to change a habit, it's about the frequency, how often you do a thing rather than the length of time. So I know there were studies that came out that like do something for 21 days and it'll become a habit. But what I've learned is that if you do something, let's say you want to become a walker and you go for 5 minute walks during the day, and you do that for like 10 days, well, then you just walked 50 times in 10 days. That's going to exacerbate that becoming who you are. Oh, look, there's my little one. Um, yeah, that's going to help. So like, if you want to love yourself more and you're all throughout the day, you have that on the forefront of your mind. And every time you pass a mirror, you tell yourself you love yourself. All throughout the day, like anytime you can find yourself saying something negative and you change it to the positive, you might, I mean, we have thousands upon thousands of thoughts a day. So if even half of those thoughts, let's say you had 3,000 thoughts in a day that were about self-love, you're going to love yourself a lot faster than if you aren't. You know what I mean? Because the frequency, it's more constant. And something else that you had touched on is vibration. We have to be a vibrational match for whatever it is we're calling in. So if you have a health goal, but you're operating on a frequency of someone who has habits that are not healthy or lower frequency, you're not going to be able to sustain results because you're not a vibrational match for it. I think there's a lot that I think it all ties together at the end of the day, but that's one of the big pieces. And a lot of people who I work with, they come to me and they're like, why are we doing this? Like they come in expecting the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change our nutrition and I'm going to give them a workout plan and we're going to do the hydration and all the things. And we don't. The first month truly saves us loads of time. The first month, and it does depend on the person. Like some people, it doesn't take a full month. I don't do anything cookie cutter, but I do have a general path that I kind of follow to kind of like guide the work we do. So I'll say the first month, knowing it could differ per person, but the first month we only hone in on the internal. We hone in, like I said in the beginning of the call here, we hone in on doing a lot of the uncovering work to see what's there, what's holding us back, what patterns are there. We do a lot of the internal. We start with the self-love. We start with gratitude. We elevate the frequency first. We work on self-love, and then we add in the habits. And I use the science of habits to do that. So even when we get to, okay, now we're going to start working on nutrition, I'm not going to give you, here is everything that you need to do. You need to follow these macros and you need to change this and do this. And if you don't do it, you're going to not be successful. Like, and this really depends on the person, where they are, what their goals are, what their life is like, how old they are. Like there's so many factors that play into what the plan is going to look like, but we take it very slow because that's how you make the habits last. It never, I can't say never, but it rarely sticks when you throw people into, you have to change everything at once, or even like just changing your whole nutrition. It just doesn't work. So like if I had a client who wanted to like just cut out sugar, we would focus on how to make that manageable, and we would focus on how are we going to make it enjoyable, how are we going to make it sustainable, how are we going to make it fit into what you're doing, how are we going to get that reward? Because that's part of that habit loop again. So we look at all of these things, but we truly do start with the internal work first. And then, I mean, it continues. It's not like a month and then, oh, we're done. It continues. I mean, it is a process. I have a client now, we've been working together for 3 months, and she has made so much progress in the self-love department, but we're still working on it. So again, everyone's different, but my clients will come in like, why are we doing it? Like, it's not what they expect, but it saves so much time, because then there's not that yo-yoing, there's not the inconsistence. They're starting to raise their frequency and align before we even touch the quote unquote health habits, which in my opinion, self-love, gratitude, the internal work is health. I mean, health is taking care of this vessel, and our mind is part of that. So it's a whole body approach. It's like body physically, body spiritually, like all the things, energetically. Like, this is a whole well-rounded machine here.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with all of you spiritual rebels and fempreneurs. If you've been craving a space where you can build wealth, heal trauma, and rise alongside like-minded women, I got something for you to hear about. I'm excited to invite you into the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. This is a low-cost, high-impact group membership designed exclusively for spiritual fempreneurs who know they need accountability and support to create sustainable wealth, but aren't ready to dive into a one-on-one mentorship. In this membership, you'll get monthly calls, rituals, healing sessions, and workshops to break through your self-doubt and build confidence so that you can consistently sell your offers and make money. This is also a collaborative private Facebook community where you make lifelong connections with other women who are just as serious as hitting their goals. And my personal guidance as your intuitive human design business guide and trauma healer, ensuring you stay aligned and on track with your business goals. Plus, you'll get free access to all my paid workshops and masterclasses, along with exclusive VIP pricing for my one-on-one Voxer membership. This membership is all about helping you heal the sabotaging behaviors blocking your abundance and using your human design to create a business that feels amazing to run. Imagine waking up excited to serve your clients and knowing that you have the exact support you need to hit every single one of your business goals every single month. So if you're ready to rise and build wealth with a sisterhood of spiritual misfits, make sure you click the registration link in the description box. Right now, the investment is just $88 a month, but the price will increase to $197 a month. Join today to unlock exclusive rates and get access to next month's kickoff call. Let's get back to today's episode, but remember, your next level is just one decision away. Join the sisterhood and let's rise together.
It seems like basically that was like going to be my next question, but you literally just answered it. So it seems like many people, I should say most people, struggle with that yo-yo dieting, which I always used to too, which is why when we talked earlier, I said, I'm going to not tell myself that I can't have this or I can't have that or whatever, because then if I tell myself that, myself, usually my ego is going to, not my higher self, but my ego is like, oh, we're going to have that because you're telling yourself we can't have that, you know? So it's only, again, it's not, you know, a battle between you and somebody else or you competing against somebody else, even though we project that it's not, it's between ourselves and ourselves. Like you versus you. I always tell myself that. So who's like telling me that I can't do this? It's me that you know, and I feel like when you tell yourself you can't do different things, or especially, you know, I've had trainers and coaches and stuff that have gave me a wealth of information, which is why I know so much about it, you know, that I just go back to the basics of what I know I need to eat. And it's mainly for me personally, I need to eat more vegetables. I need to stop eating so much like gluten, pasta, breads, you know, and I feel like my body, and again, you said it's a habit. So if I do it for 10 days, the first 5 days really sucks, you know, when you're like changing something, or maybe the first couple days like really sucks. But I feel like when you keep doing it, and I don't buy bread, then I don't want to eat it because I'm not going to the store to get bread. That's not what I'm doing. Like, you know, I'll just eat what I have. So when I go to the store, of course, like I get Lily stuff. Like she likes bread, and occasionally, sometimes she doesn't. But it's like I would rather eat a burger with no bun. Now Joey's a little bit different. He loves bread, so that's where I'm like, well, I'm not buying it. So you can go get rolls. Like I'm not. I'm gonna like try to stick gluten free as possible. And I feel like now there's so many options to healthier things that you can get. Yeah, they're more expensive, but I feel like that will help. It helps me. So if you're listening to this and you need help with stop eating bread, maybe don't buy it. Or I have tried gluten-free bread and it's absolutely disgusting. So I'm like, I'll do without. It's fine. Like I'm not even going down that road. So, but thank you for explaining the external habits. They often like you said, they often lead to making us feel like we fail, and it's not. It's more of what are your habits, right? So thank you. Definitely. I feel like that's a huge thing that people struggle with. So I feel like hopefully people will, that little tip will help them with that. So before we wrap up, the last question that I have is, when you talk about self-love, which is a lot of it is self-love or self-care, would you say that this is a fundamental to well-being in general? And when you guide your clients through this, how do you kind of guide them through this so they can cultivate this in their daily lives?
Yeah, well, first off, yes, it is absolutely foundational for everything. What I'm finding is that people come to me for health, but then it transcends into all areas of life. There are 12 areas of life. And then it's like they start making more money. And then they start, like one of my clients, she recently had, she has had a rift with one of her daughters for a year or better. And she said just recently her and her daughter had this whole great conversation, and now her daughter has reconnected with her and they're spending more time together. And it's like, we do talk like in our conversations, and I mean, I don't just stick to health, like it is, we talk about all the things, but we're working particularly on the habits I've described, but it's transcending into her relationships. And like some money has come into her experience that she didn't have to do anything for it. It literally just fell into her lap. Like it transcends life. So that's really cool to see. But then, so basically the kind of progression, sorry, I forget what was there were two parts to that and I got off track. What was the other?
Yeah, sorry. I think I sometimes do that. That's my fault. Asking
No, you're good.
one question. So no, I was asking about the self-love piece and the self-care piece being a foundational piece too, if you're looking to get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like what I think you had asked, like how I kind of do that, how
do you guide your clients to cultivate these for their daily lives?
Yeah, one of the big, so again, it's going to depend on like where people come in, like someone like you, for example, who has background, who has been working on self-love. Like what I would do with you might be different than what I would do with someone coming in who has no idea, who has never thought about the concept whatsoever. But the foundation where I start is with mirror work. I think there is something so powerful and hard, but there's something so powerful about looking at yourself in the mirror and talking positively. We start with just saying I love you. Like that is the basic, like looking at yourself in the mirror, looking yourself in the eyes and saying that you love yourself. So I have a whole, it's like 21 days that I have created of different prompts and different things to say and different things to think about, different little, I don't know if they're activities, little tasks, but just little things to do along the way. But we start with the mirror work. There's some prompts and things in there. And again, it depends on the person. Some people, it might take them a week to be able to actually look at themselves in the eye and say they love them. Some people can do it right away. So it really depends. And then self-care and like having fun is something that we incorporate I incorporate as well. Somewhere in there, I have, again, like I have a progression of kind of what I walk people through as a guide for myself. But one of the things that we do is we make sure that like every week there's something that you're doing for you. It starts with once a week, something for self-care or something that's fun to just find the joy again. And then over time, the goal is that every single day we're doing something for us. We're doing something for self-care or something for fun. So again, it depends on the person, like how that progresses and what it looks like. Some people, it takes them a lot longer. Some people it's, quicker. It just depends, but that's kind of where we start.
I was going to say, I love that. And I love that you're bringing this into the health community, because I feel like, I should say health and like wellness, fitness community, because I feel like this is going to be very transform. Like you have this process that you don't just, we're going to eat right and we're going to go work out, because it's like, how do you eat right and work out when you don't like yourself? You know what I mean? You're not gonna, like, there's no motivation. And I feel like the accountability, of course, the accountability too. That's what I always need, is accountability. Not for myself, because it's like I need Joey to tell me, are you gonna go to the gym today? Or why are you eating that? And it's not to shame me. It's to remind me that, like, I'm not gonna do it for myself. And maybe, your husband's not the person to do that. It just works for me. So because I don't want my friends telling me, are you going to go to the gym today? Are you going to eat right? I'd be like, shut up. Like, why are you worried about what I'm doing? Like, I probably will get triggered, probably. I don't know. But it doesn't trigger me when he says it in a way that, like, and I asked him to be my accountability partner. Like, why are you eating that? Or you sure you want to eat that? And it's like, I'm not logically thinking about it. It's probably more emotional. And I'm like, well, I had like a bad day. And he's like, well, don't eat that. Go do yoga or something, or go do something different, or go look at yourself in the mirror. Like, I love doing shadow work, I should say, and mirror work, because I've noticed through my whole business and through like what I do is I won't make videos when I'm not feeling good. And it's because I have to look at myself. Or I mean, I show up doing the podcast every week and I have to look at myself, so it's like, it's kind of that way of, I do it in the same, I do it that way. But people always ask me, how can you just get on video or how can you just get on your podcast and when you're not feeling good? I'm like, well, or I'm going through something hard, because nobody really knows when I'm going through something hard. I'm like, well, it's a lot of practice. It's been like 6 years for me. So it's like, this is not my first rodeo, So if you're listening to this and you're just starting, don't look at my journey. Don't look at your journey. Just start. I always say this, start where you're at. Because I feel like, right? Like, because if you look at somebody else's journey or look at their body, or it goes for social media, because it's so, you don't know what people are going through behind closed doors, I feel like, right? I think you probably can agree. Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm a victim of that. Like, I used to do that all the time. And I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. Even if I knew what they were going through, is it going to make me feel better or worse? No, it's not going to change my opinion. I don't want people to go through bad things, So it's like, I want people to be happy. And I always feel like, I always tell people, it like starts with yourself, right? So yeah. What are some words of wisdom that you can give the listeners? And of course, I'll make sure all of your links, everybody listening, all of her links, her Instagram, her TikTok, her Facebook. Is there any other ways people can get a hold of you?
I mean, I have an email that I can give you, and I have a link tree.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that's in the description box, and you can just send that to me when we get off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say, no matter where you're at, I mean, that's a great point too. Like, this is your journey. This life path that you are on is for you. It is not for anybody else. So at the end of the day, I feel like we decide, what is our story going to be? What do we want to experience? Because you're the only one that has to live with you for your whole life. You're the one that's going to experience what it's like to be you. So you are in charge of your journey. So even though it's hard to not care what people think and to just worry about you and to follow your intuition and follow your joy, it's not easy. It's the path least traveled by, but it is the path that will bring you to where you're supposed to be. It will be the most fulfilling path. And there is no right or wrong way. It's whatever feels good to you. But people are going to look at you no matter what you do, whether you're the crazy one who gets up at 5 in the morning and goes to the gym or goes for a walk, or whether you're the lazy one that sleeps until 12 noon. People are going to look at you and they're going to criticize you and they're going to say all the things about you. But at the end of the day, if you're doing what you know is best for you and it feels good to you and it's getting you 1% closer to who you want to be, and you're making 1% gains every day, that's truly what matters. So I say, follow you, follow your heart, follow your joy, follow your intuition, do what feels good, and live for you. Start living for you.
I love that. There are some I'm going to actually use that. And there are some very encouraging words. So hopefully hopefully you guys took something from this conversation. And thank you for joining us on today's episode with Jillian on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or maybe share this with somebody that you feel that would gain value from listening. Make sure you check out her links in the description box and connect with her. Go follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I know I have been following her for a very long time. She always posts very motivational stuff. So if, maybe go check her out if you need some motivation. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.